Hello, I am your host, Kate Kent, and welcome to Hairdresser Heartbreak Club, a Destroy the Hairdresser podcast for big-hearted, tender hairdressers like me. I'm starting this one out giggling because the title made me giggle, but it made me giggle because there's this song. I think it's Tears for Fears, but my parents used to listen to this song like in the morning when we were getting ready for school. I'm pretty sure it's Tears for Fears. I'm sure y'all will correct me if I'm wrong. I'm going to look it up immediately after recording this. But the song is called Sowing the Seeds of Love, and it's like, sowing the seeds of love, the seeds of love. So that's what the title made me think of as we were beginning, and I got completely distracted and giggling. And I wanted to share that with you because what is this for? If not for me sharing whatever I want with all of you. Today we're talking about the hot strings. We are not talking about music. We are talking about emotions. And in this whole heartbroken hairdresser adventure, I have wanted to talk about emotional intelligence because this has been a really important part of my experience as a salon owner. It's been a really important experience that I didn't have a name for in my art career and also in being a hairdresser behind the chair. So when I learned about emotional intelligence, just like the definition, what it is, learning just basic understanding of it, it was like this, not even a light bulb, but like the sunshine. It was like the sun came up and it was like, this is the thing. Like, this is a thing that you now have a name for and you can go further into to really work and understand these emotions that you feel and not having it really like run your life. Because a lot of my artwork, a lot of my just inner turmoil is like emotions fighting against one another and thoughts and logic fighting with emotions. And, you know, this whole kind of like, what's happening inside of my brain? Do I trust my brain? Do I trust my heart? Do I trust my body? What's happening? So this introduction into learning about emotional intelligence really has helped me change some of my own it's changed a lot of my life, to be perfectly honest. It's changed my decision-making process. It's changed how quickly I make decisions. It has changed how I communicate with other people, what I expect of other people, and it's really been kind of the driving life force in being a quality boss and leader. And I think if I wouldn't have learned this and started to like dig in and practice, you know, growing emotional intelligence and like applying these things in my life and in relationships with other people, I would not have had some of the employee relationships and also like community relationships, and I think just general understanding of how other people are, you know, like I'm somebody who I see somebody and I kind of get a sense of how they're feeling. And then there's a part of me that thinks that how they're feeling has something to do with me, of course. And most of the time that's not true. So there's this ability to now assess and separate emotions of my own with the emotions of others. And emotional intelligence, I think, just as a concept is really quite simple, right? It's like we're looking at our emotions, how do we interact with other people and communicate about emotions, and if you look at the definition, it's kind of like, okay, well, yeah, that's great. I love that. But the application and in real time use of emotional intelligence in conversations and in conflict, especially when things are potentially really heightened and our emotions are like dying to take over, this has been just a radical transformational skill to be able to pause and, inside your mind. You don't necessarily have to say this out loud. So I'm going to be like, pause. I'm feeling rage, or I'm feeling confused. I'm feeling neglected. I'm feeling this. Like, I am feeling this. I potentially need more information. What question am I going to ask? What am I going to do? Right? Is this feeling that I'm feeling is mine. It's mine. My responsibility. Somebody may have influenced it. They may have done something or said something, but I have the control and the capacity to understand this emotion. And like, where is this coming from? And then why do I feel this way? And again, we can do this in our mind. We can do it quickly when we start practicing it more and more. But being able to ask yourself, why do I feel this way, right? Why do I feel frustrated? Why do I feel like a failure after breaking off Carol's hair, even though I've got potentially 15 years, I don't know, maybe it's like 15, 13, 14, 15, this many years of a career under my belt, right? Like, this one thing doesn't define the whole of who I am, but I am having this feeling because it's bringing up something that I need to pay attention to. And I also will say that sometimes emotions make no fucking sense. Sometimes they make no sense in the moment. When something terrible happens and sometimes you're relieved, you're like, that doesn't make any sense. But it might, right? Like, being curious and investigating, like, why do I feel relieved? Why do I feel excited? Why do I feel mad when this potentially good thing happened? Maybe it happened to somebody else and I'm feeling a little bit jealous. So being able to just recognize and name how we actually feel is like a huge part of it. And then being able to really look at ourselves and say, do I need to share this with somebody else, right? Is this what I need to communicate? Or somebody is communicating their emotions with me. And what am I going to do about it? Like, if I have an employee that's like, I'm really frustrated about XYZ, it's not really helpful for me to get frustrated. It's not really helpful for me to get mad. It's not really helpful for me to disappear. It's not really helpful for me to do anything but understand why they are frustrated and to see how I might be able to help them. And sometimes I can't. If that frustration is coming from their own stuff, then there's very little that I can do, right? But listening and saying, you're frustrated. I 100% hear you. Do you want to continue being frustrated? What ideas do you have to feel a different way? Like, what's the constructive way for you to change this and transform this? And sometimes they don't know. But I can be helpful. And I was going to say, it's not my job. It's not my job to fix it. It's my job to ask questions to get the other person to think about how they might be able to change it. But the important work in the emotional intelligence, like the emotional intelligence part comes in, I'm not taking on their emotions as mine. I'm able to say, this frustration is yours. I hear you. I can feel all sorts of things. But that's not what that conversation is about. I'm going to take my emotions, put them over here, and say, right now, we are going to look at your frustration and learn a little bit more about it. If I start bringing in my emotions to the equation, well, now this conversation becomes about me and how I feel about that frustration, which, again, not constructive, not helpful. So knowing these things, I think especially as a leader, like we can be so much more impactful and we can be so much more helpful when we start to investigate and ask questions and to say, are you frustrated or confused or whatever because you need more do you need more education? Is it just that you are not confident? Like, is it that, like, there's a million reasons why somebody might feel something. And it's a little bit like, it's unfair for us to assume. And there's a lot of times in conversations with friends or with family or just, people that I know where we kind of assume how somebody else feels. We assume what they're going to do. We assume what they're going to say because we think we know them really well. And what I have learned is that that's not helpful. We can know people really well, but the best way to know how somebody feels is to ask. And to ask from a place of like, I actually really want to know. And I'm not going to try to change it or persuade it. I just genuinely want to know. How do you feel? What do you think? What do you want? And we bring our own baggage to those conversations. Because again, like my first example, we think it must mean something about us. We're always looking for that, like, how does this affect me? Like our brain is primed to protect us, right? So it's like, how is this a threat to me? You hate me? That's threatening. And it isn't. It's not. It's not really about you. One of the biggest pieces, I think, in emotional intelligence work is when we're talking about other people's emotions, it's not about you. It's not about you. You'll have your time. You can talk about your emotions at some point, and that's great. But when somebody else is sharing with you, it's not about you.
Hey hairdressers, are you looking for health insurance? It's time to get healthy with Hairdresser Healthcare, the only coverage designed specifically for the beauty industry. Whether you're an independent stylist, a salon owner with a team, a makeup artist, or a massage therapist, we've got you covered with comprehensive and affordable benefits. With options for self-enrollment and year-round open enrollment, taking control of your health has never been easier. And the best part is, it's available in every state. Visit hairdresserhealthcare.com and take control of your health today because you, your team, and your family deserve it.